Hello and welcome to Happier, a podcast where we talk about how to be happier, healthier, more productive, and more creative. This week, we'll talk about why you might keep a Commonplace book, and we have hacks for parents, for headaches, and for boosting your energy. I'm Gretchen Rubin, a writer who studies happiness, good habits, human nature, the five senses. I am in New York City in my little home office, which is getting quite warm because I'm not having the air conditioning on since we're recording. And joining me today from Los Angeles is my sister, Elizabeth Kraft. And Elizabeth, I have written down many of your sayings in my Commonplace books.
That's me, Elizabeth Kraft, a TV writer and producer living in LA. And yes, Gretch, I feel a thrill of victory every time you say, I'm writing that down.
Yes.
I do a little internal fist pump.
In my book of aphorisms, there's a section called My Sister the Sage, and it's all of your pearls of wisdom that I have been collecting over the ages. So,
well, I'm sure many of them I heard and then repeated, but I'll take the credit.
I'm giving it.
So Gretchen, update. We hope everyone had a great 4th of July. We want to say a special shout out to our mom, whose birthday is on the 4th of July. So happy birthday, Mom.
Yeah, that's a very festive birthday.
Yes.
And last week I mentioned in our review of our 22 for 22 list that I was planning a trip with Eleanor, and we are leaving today for France. So I'm very excited about going on that mother-daughter trip. So,
yay! Can't
very
wait
excited
to see the pictures.
We will send lots of photos. Now, Elizabeth, this week our Try This at Home tip is to keep a Commonplace book.
So what is a Commonplace book, Gretch, first of all?
Well, so a Commonplace book can be a lot of different things. It's a book where you write down and sort through all kinds of things that you're trying to collect. It could be quotations, anecdotes, observations, information, sayings, wise sayings from people, song lyrics, anything that you want to keep track of. And this is something that throughout history, some, very brilliant minds have kept Commonplace books of just the things that they want to hang on to in their memory.
And Gretchen, I associate these with you. I feel like you've always kept Commonplace books. We called them blank books.
We called them blank books. And here is my very first blank book. They're right here in my office, right above my head. I have more than a dozen blank books. This is the first one, which I got when I was 10 years old. Elizabeth, our Aunt Susan gave it to me for my birthday.
Gretchen, you know what? I recognize it. It's amazing how it has the swollen, warped pages from where you glued stuff in. That's what I remember about it, was how you'd have this book, but then it would expand when you filled it up.
Yeah, so one of the ways I used Commonplace books as a child was I would write in my favorite quotations, and then I would glue in images from magazines that fit the quotation. I'd also keep magazine articles. We used to do a lot more clipping. And then I kind of graduated. So now I have another more modern Commonplace book is when I was writing my books, 40 Ways to Look at Winston Churchill and 40 Ways to Look at JFK. Those biographies are really reflections about the nature of biography. And so I was doing a huge amount of research into kind of the nature of biography. And I had all these quotations that I loved. So I printed out my own book, which is called Selections on the Nature of Biography. So this one I actually physically made because a lot of my documents now are so gigantic that they stay in my computer. I'm constantly adding to them and looking at them, but I never really take the trouble to externalize them, which I think I would love if I did, but that's a huge undertaking.
And Gretchen, now when you say quotes, do you collect quotes? Well, I think you do, but do you think in general people should feel they can use quotes just from everyday life? It doesn't have to be from someone famous.
No, absolutely. The Commonplace book is sort of anything that you want to reflect on, you want to hang on to. Now, I am a big fan of quotations. Now, obviously, I love quotations. I have my Moment of Happiness newsletter where I send out a quotation every day because I love sharing them and I love collecting them. And in the more happier, I read a longer quotation. I love quotations. And so I spend hours every week noting quotations, double checking, reread. Elizabeth, every time we talk on the phone, I'm like, wait, that reminds me of a section from Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. Let me go read it to you. And I do think if you're at all writerly, it's a great writerly tool because by copying out a quotation, you sort of get inside it and understand how the language works better. And at least for me, I certainly remember it better. Sometimes people want to handwrite. I think for some people, handwriting is great. You probably do remember it better. But Elizabeth, you and I have the same issue, which is our handwriting is so bad that it would not be useful.
No.
And also, if it's in a computer, you can search. And that's a huge time saver.
Yeah, well, Gretchen, I don't keep these commonplace books, although I should. And the more you talk about it, the more I realize I should also do this. When Sarah and I were writing our pitch for Fantasy Island, when we were trying to, get our straight to series order, I asked you for magical realism quotes sort of about rebirth and transformation. And you came back with a quote that we ended our pitch with. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember. I was so excited until I had so much fun trying to find the perfect thing. And then we found one that really was just perfect for Fantasy Island.
Yeah, it was, and I'll just read it. I'll remind you what it was. It was from Laura Esquivel. Each of us is born with a box of matches inside us, but we can't strike them all by ourselves. And then Sarah and I went on to say, and that is what Fantasy Island does. It strikes a match within all who arrive on its shores. It transforms, enlightens, shocks, reveals.
I mean, chills.
I know, it's good, right? Then we ended with, welcome to the new Fantasy Island. Let's strike a match.
Ooh.
So, Gretch, you were instrumental in our pitch.
Well, and that's such a great metaphor because they're always revealing, but sometimes they can feel destructive or they can feel dangerous the way lighting a match can feel dangerous. So that's good. Yes, and that's from the novel Like Water for Chocolate, which is a wonderful novel. And apparently the movie is great. I've never seen the movie, but I hear the movie is great. Another way that keeping my quotations is handy for me is I was trying to remember if I'd read Department of Speculation by Jenny Offal. And then I looked at my quotations and I saw that I had written down a quotation from that book. So I was like, well, clearly I did read it because
that's funny.
I remembered the passage. I just didn't remember what book it was from.
What I think is great about it, Gretchen, and why I should be doing this, one reason is it definitely makes you a more active reader if you're looking for good quotes. They're not just kind of washing over you. You're sort of on alert. You're going to really pay more attention to the language.
Well, absolutely. And also, I think it makes you just more engaged with everything that's happening. Like, I had been wanting to write a book about the five senses well before I started officially working on a book about the five senses. Just like right now, I'm working on my project Scientific Oracle, even though that book is years and years and years away of is it even going to happen? But I was taking notes. And so it got me much further in my thinking because I'd been processing. It wasn't just like I'd said, like, oh, that's interesting. I'd actually take the time to make a note of it and write it down. And then when I actually turned to the project, I had all this fodder of things that I'd been thinking about. Because I find that with some things, with especially big ideas, you need to let them unfold over time. Like, I am not somebody who can sit down and be brilliant in 12 hours or have a big insight. I need to ponder and return and mull. One of the things we talk about all the time is how do you remember that you want to do something?
Right.
Like just absolutely, how do you even remember that that's an aim? You'd think, how would you forget your own aims? But you do. And things can be incredibly interesting or revelatory. But if you don't write them down or memorialize them in some way, they can be lost. And so, and there's no right or wrong way. You look at all the great minds in history who have kept these, they do it in all different ways. So it's not like you should handwrite it or you should do it once a day or you should only limit yourself to quotations. It's like this is a very, very flexible tool.
And I just want to say for all the parents out there, I feel like everybody's like, oh, my kid said the cutest thing. Well, this is a perfect place to write it down.
Right.
Because we think we'll remember those things, but of course we never do.
Right.
And Gretchen, one thing just that I keep thinking about with this is it's interesting to me that you always ask people, what did you do for fun when you were 10 years old? It's a window into what you want to do as an adult. And I mean, you are the prime example of this. I mean, you did this when you were 10 and you're kind of just still doing it. So that's delightful.
No, the Moment of Happiness newsletter is a perfect example. Like it's basically exactly the same thing I did, but it's been updated sort of for my adult context. Yeah. No, it's so fun. So let us know if you do keep a commonplace book or if you're intrigued how you think you might approach your commonplace book. Let us know on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Drop us an email at podcast@GretchenRubin.com. Or as always, you can go to happiercast.com/385. This is episode 385 for everything related to this episode. For instance, if you want to sign up for my Moment of Happiness newsletter where I get to send out all these quotations that I collect with such enthusiasm, I will post a link in the show notes.
Coming up, we have a parenting hack from our producer, Chuck. But first, this break. Okay, we're back with a happiness hack. And this week we have one courtesy of Chuck, our producer. Chuck, welcome.
Hi.
I love seeing you on Happier.
Yeah, and it's great, Chuck. You're on the lookout for us getting hacks.
Well, this one hit me right over the head.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it was actually a barbecue after my son's Little League game, and I was talking with some of the parents, and we were talking about how sometimes if children get down, they feel like it's the end of the world, or this is just the way life is from now on, and how we can impress upon them that everything gets better, everything changes. You go through a phase, it always gets better, it always moves forward. And one of the moms, Kelly, said she learned a parenting tip to add the words "for now" after the sentence. For instance, she said, "My baby won't stop crying for now." Or "My baby is teething so badly for now." And Kelly was saying how you can relate this to all feelings being temporary. And I thought that was a good hack and that you would like it.
Because kids are changing all the time for better or for worse. Things are changing. And so it's good to be reminded as a child and as a parent and also in our adult lives. It's just as relevant.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is so, I love anything where we can reframe, and it's a perfect reframing advice just to add that for now. I could see Sarah and I doing this at work, saying like, "Oh my God, I'm so stressed out about this deadline." For now.
Right, yes.
That will change.
Yes.
And then you can just feel like, okay, it's going to get better. And then, of course, it may get worse, but
right.
It's for now.
It's for now. Oh, well, thank you, Chuck. And thank you, Kelly. Those are great.
Yes.
That's a great, excellent hack.
Thanks, Chuck. For now.
Well played. So also I want to throw in this bonus hack from Caitlin, because we talked a few episodes ago about the Boo Boo Bear. That's the kind of ice pack that we keep. And she said, I wanted to share our favorite ice pack, the headache hat. It's a compression headband that has an ice pack in it, and you can put it on if you have a headache or migraine. It's made my migraine so much better. You can easily find it online. And I looked this up, and it's not really so much a hat. It's more like a wide eye band, but it wraps all around your head in a hat-like way. And it did look like something that if I could imagine that if I had a headache, I would love to put that thing on.
Yeah, Gretchen, I think I want to get one of these for Adam because, he suffers from a lot of headaches. And it's true, like having it something that you don't have to hold.
Yes.
But that just fits over would be great. So
and maybe
thank
that goes
you for that.
all around your head too, not just like on the forehead or something. That might give you more relief.
Yes.
And now for a Know Yourself Better question. This is a comment that came from Faye about something important that she learned about herself.
Faye said, I lead a twice-a-week exercise class and usually feel energized and renewed afterward, but sometimes I ended up feeling quite burdened and out of sorts. Turns out on the days I left immediately after class, I felt positive, and negative times were when I lingered for coffee and conversation. For me, relating to people before and during class was enough, and extending the time was draining. So that's interesting, isn't it, Gretchen?
No, I think this is a great example of how you can sort of assume that emotions and energy levels sort of just roll over you and you experience them and there's sort of nothing to be done about it. Or you can really look for things like helpful patterns. And so knowing herself, knowing that for Faye, before and the class itself was enough engagement to sort of feel satisfying, but too much more tipped into draining is a really, really helpful thing to know. And I think this is one of the reasons why using something like on the Happier app, one of the tools is a one-sentence journal. And one of the things you could do is you could keep notes there so that you can start to look for these kinds of patterns. And I also wanted to mention that in the Rest Jumpstart, which is a thing that you can ask for free, it's got a bunch of tools related to getting rest. There's an energy tracker so that for a week you can track your levels of energy through the day. Because I think, like Faye experienced with this class, I think for some people, they might be trying to do something in a part of the day where they're not naturally, like, it's not one of their more energetic times. But you might assume, like, well, of course I should do it first thing in the day, not realizing that actually your energy level goes up through the day or vice versa. Or like, I remember, Elizabeth, we were talking about, I want to do that review process with my books. And I was
Right.
like, well, maybe I need to move it from the weekday to the weekend. That's the kind of thing where tracking your concentration, your focus, how you feel like using your time, like, it just can be really useful.
Well, yeah, and it's always, as you say, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
And that's why the know yourself better is interesting, because for Faye, leaving right after class is what leaves her with more energy.
Yes.
But I'm sure there's an equal number of people who staying and chatting after class, that's the
Yes.
whole reason they want to be there, is to chat with people
Yes.
after class. So if you know which one works for you, you can focus on making that happen, and then you'll want to go to the exercise class more often.
Yeah.
So the whole point is not that it's right or wrong to chat afterward, but what's the right thing for you.
But I can hear a lot of people saying you should, or
Right.
it's better, or why don't you, instead of saying like, oh, well, you learned something important about yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
No tool fits every hand. And I think this is a great reminder that when we know ourselves, we can set ourselves up to be happier.
Yeah. And it also goes with identifying the problem, Gretchen, right? She
Yes.
identified the problem is I'm staying after
Yes.
class and that's draining me. If I just leave, then I won't have that feeling. But if you don't look at it, you don't identify it.
But that's a great example, because if she did that in a vague, sweeping way, she might say, oh, sometimes the class leaves me energized, but sometimes it leaves me drained. And if it's leaving me drained too often, maybe I want to drop it, instead of saying it's not the class, it's the staying after the class. It's a much more specific problem than you might have thought if you just looked at it without enough precision. So,
Yeah.
really understanding the actual specific problem is so important. Yes, excellent point. Excellent point. And now for a listener question.
This comes from Andrea. She says, my happiness stumbling block is when my husband interrupts me. I lose my train of thought and then get frustrated. Do you or your listeners have tips on approaches I can use to get him to stop interrupting me when I'm trying to tell a story, relay some info, etc.?
Wow.
Oh, well, Gretch, this is a common happiness stumbling block, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough problem, both for the interruptee and the interrupter to sort of tackle. Please, listeners, flood us with your
Yes.
suggestions.
Yes.
If you've dealt with this in an effective way, or if you have some insights. Now, listen, one place where I know that I get very frustrated when I'm interrupted is when I'm packing. Because when I'm packing, I go into a zone, and I'm like, one thing will lead to another, and I'll be like, well, I have my flip-flops, and so do I need my sun hat? And then if I have my sun hat, maybe I need sunscreen. And if somebody interrupts me during that chain of thinking, it can throw me off. And even if I use a list, the problem is I'm like, but did I already get that? You know, sometimes if you put something in, then you're like, you have to unpack to see if it's already in there. It's a whole thing where I'm like, there's ways to solve this, but another way to solve it is don't interrupt me while I'm packing, and then I'll be fine. You know,
Right.
so I make a huge pronouncement every time, and I'm like, back off, I'm packing.
I love that. Gretch, I think I'm on the other side of this. I feel like my issue is I am an interrupter. I interrupt people. I think I do it especially at work. And I really do try to stop myself. But it's like if I feel like I know where something is going, I just am like, okay, now I can start talking. I don't need to hear the end of this. And it's incredibly rude. And sometimes I even know I'm doing it. I even am saying I could just not interrupt, but then I do it anyway. So it's an issue.
I mean, is it kind of a time-saving thing where you're like, we know what the next 3 minutes is going to be, let's just skip ahead type thing?
I think so, yeah.
Because that seems very different for me from like interrupting when you like don't want somebody to criticize you or to offer a different view, which I can't see you doing that.
Well, sometimes if someone starts with an argument and I feel I know what that argument's going to be, I will start arguing my counterpoint before they even finish their point. So I can't say I never do that.
I guess with this question from Andrea, it's difficult to know how to respond because there are so many kinds of interruptions. So like, is he jumping in with his own comments, which sometimes is sort of a sign of excitement? It might be annoying, but it's sort of like, I want to add my 2 cents. Is he completely changing the topic? You're telling some story about what happened when you were at the drugstore, and he's saying something like, what time are our dinner reservations? And you're like, wow, you're not even on the same page. Is he interrupting because he wants, to shut down something that he doesn't want to hear? maybe some kind of reminder or some kind of information so he's interrupting to sort of thwart the communication. There's a lot of different kinds of interruptions. Just like we've been talking about how there's all these different kinds of ways to ask questions. There's a lot of different reasons to interrupt and ways to interrupt.
Well, and I wonder if Andrea has asked her husband, why do you interrupt me? I'd be curious if he says, oh, do I interrupt you? And he doesn't even know he does it. Or is he saying because you repeat yourself all the time and I just don't want to hear it again? Or is he saying, oh, I'm just excited about the story and I want to contribute? Or you're getting details wrong and I want to make sure they're right.
Right. Or you're giving me information that I feel like I don't need, so you don't need to keep explaining to me about something that I feel like is not relevant. So I just want to just skip ahead, hit like forward skip on the remote. There's a lot of things. They could still be deeply annoying.
Yes.
But again, you want to understand like, well, what is the nature of the communication breakdown? Because that might suggest a different solution.
Right.
Well, and one thing that happens a lot with couples is, and I think this is part of just like being in a romantic relationship, is like you're signing up to hear the same story many times. You know, everybody's got a story they love to tell. And sometimes you're bored with it, but they're still telling it to a new audience, or something happened to both of you. So you're interrupting to jump in with your take. And that can be annoying if you feel like you're holding forth, like you are the storyteller, you've commanded the stage, and someone keeps interrupting you and kind of stepping on your jokes or your timing.
Right.
We've all done it. Yep. We've all had it done to us.
Yes.
So what would be ideal, and again, throw this to the listeners because you and I don't have a suggestion, is like, is there something that you can do as part in the moment that will help the person understand the pattern that for you is very frustrating and maybe discourage the interruptions? Like, is there some kind of like brilliant response, or I'm just making this up, if it's sort of like just fall silent and don't talk? I mean, that sounds kind of like that would be deeply annoying on its own, but are there ways to respond in the moment? Conversational strategies.
Start interrupting them all the time, and then he'll see, oh wow, it is annoying to be interrupted.
What is that? Wait, what is it? Knock knock. Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Yeah.
Okay. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting
Moo.
cow who? There you go. It's relevant, if not the most sophisticated. It was apt.
Yeah.
So listeners, let us know. I mean, I do think this is one of the things where we're probably have all been on both sides, interrupting and being interrupted. What worked for you? What made it worse? Let us know, because this is a really interesting and important question for conversation.
Coming up, Gretchen has a repeat demerit. I feel like I often say that when I'm talking about demerits. But first, this break. Okay, Gretch, we are back with demerits and gold stars, and you're up this week with a happiness demerit, something that you've talked about before, as often is the case.
Yes, yeah. So it's a repeat demerit, which is that I've let my office get very messy, even though I know that just makes me feel more stressed out. I need to do, as I mentioned with 22 for 22, I need to do like a deep organizational cleaning. And I think I'm going to try to get Eleanor to help me because she's ruthless. And the last time we did it, she helped me and I got rid of a lot more stuff than I would have gotten rid of on my own. So I need to do that. But it's also just the superficial. Usually I'm very good at keeping just sort of a superficial level of tidiness because I am very aware of it. And it always takes the same form. It's like 10 slips of paper with messy writing on them that I sift through over and over. It's piles of papers where I'm like, do I still need this pile? Well, I better hang on to it because maybe I'll need it. But then I just get overwhelmed. I have like books where I've taken the notes for my Commonplace books and my Commonplace documents. And so they need to go back into the place where I put my library books when they're going back to the library, or to be shelved or to be given away or processed in some way. But instead they're just sort of stacked up in a corner. Barnaby brought up some dog toys. Those are sitting around. It's like, it's not big stuff, but it's weird because in a way it feels like a treat to let myself off the hook, but it's not a treat. It makes me feel worse.
Right.
So that's the demerit. The demerit is I know better. The 1 minute rule, take one thing with you. I have all the tools that I need.
Yes,
they're all
you
in
do.
outer order, inner calm. I just need to flip through my own
Take
book.
your own advice, Gretch.
Take my own advice. So I will. I will take my own advice today. Okay, what is your gold star? Take us up.
All right, Gretch. Well, I want to give a gold star to all the listeners who send me wonderful corgi images, links, products with corgis on them.
Who knew?
Yes, I had no idea I was entering into like the corgi zone when we got our corgis.
Yes.
It brings me so much pleasure to like get a link to a cute corgi GIF or video. A couple of people sent me links to CorgiCon, which I know about now, which is in San Francisco, and twice a year corgis meet on the beach. And it's just like such a delightful thing. And it always gives me a smile. So I just want to thank everybody for sending me these things and know that I really do love getting them and looking at them. And so thank you.
It's all corgi all the time.
That's right. I have a new identity.
Well, so gold star to listeners and the resources for this week. I talked earlier about the rest jumpstart, and there's also a creativity jumpstart. So to be happy, we need to live in an atmosphere of growth, and creativity is an essential part of growth because it helps us learn new things, have fun, learn new skills, meet new people, go to new places. If you would like to boost your creativity, go to happiercast.com/creativity. There's a fun SMS challenge. There's a creativity bingo card. There's fun stuff there. And also, I wanted to remind you that you can join my group of super fans. If you're on the super fan list, you get a first look at new projects and tools and features. I'll probably do my jacket reveal first for the super fans for my new book. There might be special events. We recently did a thing where just in the super fans, people shared their favorite books about happiness. And I made a list for the super fans of like everybody's favorite books for that. Got so many great recommendations. So if you want to join up to be a super fan, and I really do appreciate the enthusiasm and support of the super fans, I love it. Go to happiercast.com/superfan. And what are we reading? Elizabeth, what are you reading?
Gretch, I am reading How to Win the Bachelor by Chad Kultgen and Lizzie Pace.
And I am about to start Good Company by Cynthia Dupree Sweeney. And that's it for this episode of Happier. Remember to try this at home. Keep a Commonplace book. Let us know if you tried it and if it worked for you, or if you've been keeping one for a long time. Tell us about it.
Thank you to our executive producer, Chuck Reed, and everyone at Cadence 13. Get in touch. Gretchen's on Instagram at Gretchen Rubin, and I'm at Liz Kraft. Our email address is podcast@GretchenRubin.com.
And if you like the show, if you're a fan, maybe you're not a super fan, but you're a real fan, please rate, review our show, and recommend it to a friend, because really, in the end, that's how most people find our shows, is through word of mouth.
Until next week, I'm Elizabeth Kraft.
And I'm Gretchen Rubin. Thanks for joining us. Onward and upward.
Gretch, did you do anything to celebrate Barnaby's birthday?
We got him a few little extra treats and gave him a lot of love. And there were many, many photographs were taken. Yes, so it was really fun. Love a dog birthday.
Yes. Low pressure.
Thank you for watching our podcast here on YouTube. If you enjoyed it, please hit subscribe right below the video. It really helps other people to discover the show. Thanks for watching. From the Onward Project.